Hey, what's up? This is my Suzuki GSXR. It's old, 1986. These are like the only bikes I ever run. But the ignition system on these things is usually kept right under here. It's a computer transistorized ignition system like they always run today on all fuel injected bikes, and they've run ever since really 83, I guess, 84, 85, something like that. But anyway, the boxes are so old now, and they only used to go for about 20,000 miles that the computer went. And not having a computer and looking on eBay and knowing that the box is like maybe it'll last 6 months or a year now, I remember from the old school days of racing and also racing Mustangs, guys used to use dual points, and some guys were really, really fast. So I went over to Advance, and if you look in here under the thing, under the cover, is it's a points ignition system. The way this system works is there are little switches, and a switch gets tripped, and it stops the current running through to the ignition coils. And when you stop the current, ironically enough, that's when the spark comes. That's when the two coils inside the ignition coil, they jump a spark, they leap ahead a spark. But this is all, I made all this. I mean, this is all custom made. I got some oil-proof wiring and stuff. But this is how easy it is to go faster than a computer. It's kind of incredible. I had to degree the cams. Under here, I had to reset the cams. We used to do that all the time. You get a slotted cam sprocket setup. But if you set the cams up right, this cam lobe centers on these are about 103, 108. It might be 104, 108, or 104, 107. But it's between 103, 104 intake and 107, 108 exhaust. But with this setup, the stock ignition advance is about 33 degrees or 35 degrees. You start the engine at 15 degrees, and then above like 3,000 RPM, it's 33. This setup, I've actually run these engines, these Katanas, at 90 degrees. I mean, it may sound impossible, but you have to hold almost full throttle to go about 50 miles an hour at 90 degrees. They don't knock, believe it or not, they don't knock. But your fuel economy goes down about 10 miles per gallon. If you set them up at about 47, 45 degrees, and you have an economizer valve, if you fill the carburetors up and then empty the carburetors out without giving them fuel, you'll actually run 80 to 100, sometimes 105. I was beating Katana 750s at like 100 miles per gallon cruise with the economizer shut down. But anyway, this setup is set up, it's about 55, 57 degrees total ignition advance. That's at startup. And I made this cam. This is my own cam. So there's no ignition advance, there's no vacuum advance, and there's no mechanical advance on this. And sure enough, it starts. It won't start by the starter. I took off the starter gear and everything else to bump start. I've always bump started these bikes, though. It never bothers me, because usually the compression I run on race bikes is between 13 and 14 to 1 on pump gas. So sometimes they bang when you do that. But anyway, I made this whole cam. This is the bump cam, and I bolted it in. I degreed it up to about 55, 57 degrees total advance. It's about 24 beyond stock, and it runs, and it hauls ass on top. It really hauls ass, and it doesn't knock, at least not yet, in spring and stuff. But it won't knock on 93. I'm running on regular, and 89, it runs great. The only thing is managing to start it. But the whole point of this isn't to go out and do this. The whole point is a computer in like 1988 or 1989 for this 86 is like $500. A computer on eBay now is like $100 or $200, and you don't even get the other stuff. You don't get the pickup coils that they came stock with. This whole setup here, 1950s to 1970s points. You get them off a 57 Lincoln or 1978 Toyota Land Cruiser are the best. Dual points. This whole thing's like $20. The stock ignition revs to 10,500 RPM on these bikes. This is a different engine. I went down to 600s because really I don't need 750s anymore to go racing. I used to race 1100s. Now it's like, pulling heavy horsepower out of 600s is easy. This is the lowest horse 600 engine I think they ever made for sport touring. Well, one guy pulled like 72 or 73 horsepower after putting like $1,000 in mods. This one's probably close to 95. I'll probably have it close to 118 or 120 when I'm all done. But right now it's pretty much stock. With the exception of this, with the exception of 57 degree total ignition advance. But this was $20. All this stuff you see in here with some time to make my own aluminum points cam. But one of these points in 1957 Chevy or 57 Lincoln, they can go to 7,000 RPM with a V8. Now, if you're turning a 4-cylinder, you need half the sparks, which means you have half the bumping of the cam. which means you get double. You could have double the engine speed and still make the spark. So that means one of these is good for 14,000 RPM on a 4-cylinder, but because it's dual points, like we used to put on the Mustangs, you know, B103 cams and E103 cams with dual points. I remember when one buddy had one, he'd step on the gas, hit the kickdown, the car could spin around at 55 miles an hour on a county road, a hot county road. Dual points, this is good for 14,000 times 2 approximately, which means it's like $600-700 for all the Suzuki stuff, but for $20 from Advance Auto or AutoZone or wherever you go to buy points, if you make your own cam, you get with dual points, you're good for approximately 28,000 RPM, maybe a little less. But the engine runs out of wind at I think around 12.2, maybe 13.2. So, but anyway, it's faster. It's faster than the computer stuff, and it actually feels like it may be a little more accurate with these 1950s or 1970s ignition points. These are really close to 57 Lincoln or 58 Lincoln. But bike hauls ass. Hopefully you're gonna catch some good drag races. I gotta show people the number on the side of the block. It's on the other side. It says 600, 599. Yeah, so it's fun racing big bikes with little motors. But anyway, the point of it isn't that anybody else is going to do this. The point is that, you know, people sell you on stuff. They say a computer this, a special, you know, computerized that, and the newest state-of-the-art stuff. People say when you can do better with $20 if you know what you're doing with stuff that's a lot older. So don't believe the hype sometimes. Later.